Happy Super Bowl Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Earl the Pearl, Mikey McNuggets. This is a Sunday morning edition of Behind the Glass. Our guy Anthony Antonelli may join us. He may not. He hasn't answered the text, which is fine. We know he's alive, but this is a kind of impromptu last-minute stream to go over the Cleveland Cavaliers continuing to stay red hot with their dominance over the Toronto Raptors last night. We're going to give you our final Super Bowl picks and previews here. Earl, it is Sunday morning. I know you're tweeting out the link, so I'll give you a second. I will keep stalling, but I appreciate you always being willing to hop on here. Anthony, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Today, Earl, you're the big winner. Ant, you're a loser today. We love you, buddy.
Loser. Yeah, man. I feel like we ain't did like behind the glass in like 2 weeks, man. But
we did the one in studio last week, so it wasn't really behind the glass.
It felt different, man. But felt like I like you wanted to serve the city of Cleveland some content on this Super Bowl Sunday morning. So I got the Browns jersey on because I just gotta have it on, right? You got to have the Browns gear on today. So
I am surprised that I went to the gym this morning. I was walking around downtown picking up some groceries. I didn't see as much Browns gear as I thought I would. Now, granted, it's early. This was 9, 10 o'clock. I expect when I go out later for everyone to be wearing their Browns gear. I'll be rocking a brown shirt when I go out to watch the game this afternoon. But I feel like it's only appropriate if your team's not in the Super Bowl, Earl, to wear your own team's colors at a Super Bowl party, gathering, event, wherever you go. You should be rocking your own team. You can't wear a Chiefs or a 49ers or any other NFL logo, whatever. You got to rock your hometown team.
Yeah, big facts, man. I put the Pearl jersey up. I got the throwback Jim Brown jersey on for the day. So I'm already dressed for the day. This will be what I'm rocking. But you absolutely right. Unless you got like real close ties to somebody that's actually from the city that's playing for one of those two teams. So
if Cecil was in the Super Bowl and you wanted to wear a Cecil jersey, that's fine. But
only time I wouldn't is so a friend of mine, Thaddeus Gibson, right, played at Ohio State, was a late round draft pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers, didn't really have a career in the NFL. And when he got there, it was like, congratulations, bro. But I'm never cheering for you and I'm never wearing your gear. So but outside of that, for sure. You represent your people.
Well, we'll talk about the Super Bowl in a sec, but let's start with a little bit on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh, what's up?
Before you start, to the fans, man, check in. Where y'all watching from this morning? Good morning, man. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to y'all. We want to know where y'all watching us from this morning. We're going to kick it with y'all for the next half hour. So just tell us where you pulling up from. Go ahead, Mike.
And if you see us kind of looking off screen, we got the chat up on the side. So we're not distracted by other people. We're distracted by you guys. We love listening to you guys. We're going to do some fan stuff at the end, so make sure you guys tap in. Let us know where you are watching today from. Let us know where you're watching the Super Bowl from. And at the end, we're going to get some final score predictions from you guys as well. But we're going to start with the Cavs, Earl. They have now won a season-high 9 in a row. That is 17 of their last 18. They beat the Raptors despite no player on the Cavs scoring over 20 points. It was a dominant defensive effort. And I think we've tried to say this in the past, and last night I feel like was the encapsulation of a point we've been trying to make about why this particular Cavs team was different than last year's Cavs team and some other teams in the NBA this year. Part of what makes this Cavs team special, and I'm curious if you agree or disagree, is I feel like they can beat you offensively and defensively. And last season, especially in the regular season, they won 51 games. They were the number 1 rated defense in the NBA. But we always looked around and it was like, if Donovan didn't have a good offensive game, they were struggling to score 110, which was about the league average. This season, you look at the game last night, not a single player scored over 20 points. Last year, that was a recipe for disaster. It was a 15-point win or whatever it was, almost a 20-point win. So this team yesterday suffocated the Raptors, who were not a good offensive team, granted, but suffocated them. They can beat you offensively. They can beat you defensively. They're not a perfect team. They have their flaws. Every team does. But right now, man, there's not a team in the NBA playing better basketball than the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the fact that they can win in a multitude of different kind of ways. They can outshoot you. If they have to go down low, I feel a little better about Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley now. I know for a fact they can shut you down defensively. And when you put all that together, that's the recipe of a legitimate threat in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to it, you're talking about a team that can beat you two different ways, both on offense and on defense. But Mike, man, last year they struggled to win games away from the Rock and Mortgage Fieldhouse. So
Fact.
they have the best road record in the NBA right now. And not only that, the other component to this is they're beating teams that they're supposed to beat. I think the Raptors came into this game 3-7 in their last 10.
Yeah.
They're below 500 at home. So to me, and the Cavs were like 9-point favorites according to FanDuel. So this was a game that the Cavs should have won, and they did so in dominating fashion. As you alluded to, they beat them on the defensive side of the ball. I think Donovan Mitchell played 31 minutes, but outside of that, nobody played over 30 minutes in this game. You had two people that was on the bench play over 20 minutes, and I think you had like what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players finishing double figures. So this was a total team dominating effort against a team that you should have dominated. And to your point, like that's what makes this Cavs team different. It's not just the depth that they have, it's the way that they're playing, it's the way that they're winning, it's how they're winning. It's just the little things, right? Good teams in the NBA, you're supposed to be teams that you should beat. There should never, and even when the Cavs has played down to their opponent, you think the other day when we played Washington, right? Not a good, really offensive outing, not really a good game for the Cavs. They kind of played down to the Washington Wizards, but yet they still found a way to on the road to win that game. And so when you look at the Cavs, you see a lot of things that's different from last year to this year. The biggest thing is having everything that they're doing now be sustained throughout the regular season and carrying it over to the playoffs.
And it's crazy. You look at the rotation down the stretch in the playoffs last year. And Jason, and to his credit, and I think in retrospect, he deserves even more credit. He said this in the moment. He's been proven right. He was like, guys, it's not JB's fault. He has no one to play. And last year, like we were banking on Danny Green to be the savior from deep. And Isaac Okoro, who's taken a massive step forward this year, but this is last year's Isaac Okoro. They're not the same player. They didn't have Sam Merrill. They didn't have Niang. They didn't have Strus. And when you look at the roster, Earl, I don't know what JB was supposed to do. And when you're counting on Danny Green, and no disrespect to Danny Green, he's won 3 rings, but at that point of his career, he's old, a buyout guy, washed up, wasn't playing in Memphis. They didn't have a ton of options. And now you look, and you mentioned yesterday, 8 different players scoring in double figures. They're playing 10, 11 guys per game. Can you imagine last season who the 8 players, if the Cavs were to have 8 guys scoring double figures, who the random 7th and 8th guys would have had to have been to have that kind of offensive versatility and balance? It was impossible. Impossible. So they have the pieces. They're utilizing the pieces. Depth allows you to rest guys in a strategic way to keep them fresh for the postseason. And playing the game with Donovan Mitchell last night, where only plays 31 minutes.
Yeah.
And then maybe the next game only plays 30. That adds up. You save 6-7 minutes a game. I know it's minute in the immediacy, but over the course of a season, that's 300, 400 fewer minutes on Donovan Mitchell's legs that he's fresher for the playoffs. Now, I'm not blaming last season's collapse on Donovan playing too many minutes. Like there were other factors at play, but anything you could do to keep these guys fresh helps in the long run. And Earl, you mentioned the Wizards game. I never played at the NBA level, never was good enough. I was a bench warmer in D3, but my sophomore year, and this is the testament of a good team versus a great team, right? My sophomore year, in a span of 2 weeks, we beat the number 1 team in the country and the number 3 team in the country in 4 games. We went 2-2 in those 4 games. We lost to 2 teams that we had no business losing to. We beat number 1, who was on a 29-game winning streak, defending national champions in Amherst. We beat WPI at WPI, and we lost to 2 freaking nobodies. You know why? We got cocky. We didn't practice hard. We felt like we could beat whoever. Oh, we did this. All right, we're going to play with our food. We got stomped. The Cavs have not proven to this point that they just, quote unquote, are going to play with their food against these bad teams. Like that Nets game was close for a while. Then there was the little skirmish between Ben Simmons and Jarrett Allen. 21-0 run, done, game over. Toronto last night, a team that has no business being in the same conversation as Cleveland. Never a game. And the fact that the Cavs are doing that, which allows JB to rest their starters, allows other guys on the bench to mix and match rotations, like that's a sign of a really, really, really good basketball team, Earl. And the fact they're doing it on the road, it should make any question you have just it's easier to believe in, if that makes sense.
I mean, bro, you know what they say, right, man? They say humility before honor. And I think what happened to the Cleveland Cavaliers last year truly, truly humbled them. I think it made them go look in the mirror and check themselves. Jarrett Allen had a quote. I'm not sure if it was after the game yesterday or the game against Brooklyn, but he said, we might not look like we the toughest group of guys, you know what I'm saying? But you kind of like poke at us, you'll see that dog come out. I'm just paraphrasing what he said.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm getting back to is everything that this team went through last year, how things were when we got to the playoffs, like it put a lot to be like, it put a lot in question. It put a bad taste in our mouths. It took us a long time to get over it. And you see a Cavs team this year, man, who's standing on business, as we like to say these days, right? Donovan Mitchell is checking the rankings. He's checking where the Cavs is after every single game. That dude is locked in. You see a difference in Jarrett Allen. You see Evan Mobley come back from injury and immediately assert himself. We're starting to see Darius Garland. Shout out to DG. I think the Cavs plus 19 with him on the court, 8 dimes, only 2 turnovers yesterday, right? Like, shout out to him. You see a team that's just really understanding that they've overcome some really humiliating moments and they've grown from that. And they're not taking their foot off the gas. They're taking every single game seriously. And I just believe that what happened last year ultimately is looking like a learning lesson this year. So,
Earl, do you like this? I actually clicked the wrong button and we went big screen. Do you like this or you like this version?
Let's go big screen. Big screen.
All right, yeah. If you're in the chat, we're gonna read some where y'all coming from. If you like the bigger picture, let us know. I didn't even know that was a button that existed on the system. That was an accident, but I kind of like it. It gives a little more visual. Dope. Yeah, listen,
us too, right? It's just us.
And I think we could do it with Anthony if he hops on. I think we could go 3 like this. But I either way, there is typically a process to building a championship contender, Earl. And there are very few exceptions to where you kind of skip the disappointing playoff experience and it's a learning experience to then just become a championship contender. Even the Warriors before their dynasty in the 2023, 2013, 2014 season, like they lost a disappointing playoff series, came back and learned from it, and then you can grow. There's no such thing as moral victories and moral losses, but I do think the Cavs, for a team as young as they were, kind of needed to get kicked in the ass to figure out how they had to get better. And it's a humbling experience. And sometimes, I don't want to say it was rock bottom, but sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to figure out how to climb out of it.
It's just weird. Like not to cut you off, because I think you're 100% right. Like, just think about it. In sports and life and anything, like, that's why I say humility before honor. Like, you like, growth is painful. Like, typically when you have growth moments, it usually comes from failures. It usually comes from something not going right. And if you can take that L and actually use it as a learning lesson, then you can come back and you can be better than what you were before. And so, like, to your point, I mean, this is a young team and you have to learn how to win. You have to learn, like, what playoff environment is like. You have to learn these things. Jason, and I got to give him his credit, because, a lot of us, including myself, be in a moment, be emotional in a moment. And he stood pat on, this team, all they need is time. This is a young group. They just need to grow. They just need to mesh together. Experience is all that this team needs. And for as heart-crushing as it was for us, as pissed off as it made us, you look back at it now, and it was necessary, right? Because I don't think we will be seeing not only this team, but the head coach and the general manager grow and adapt as well, right? We looked at this roster last year, and it wasn't much there. Like, it just wasn't much there.
He was there, man.
Yeah, right. He didn't have much to work with. We identified what we needed. Kobe Altman went out there somehow with limited, like, assets and got players that we needed that fit a certain role, and did certain things. And then, due to injury or whatever else, JB Bickerstaff stumbled upon a style of play that works perfectly for the roster that he has. You just see the growth across the board with this entire Cavs organization.
Yeah. And I want to add one more thing, then we're going to pivot to the Super Bowl, but we talk about hitting rock bottom. Well, I think JB, in a way, saw that his philosophy of playing 2 bigs and focusing so heavily defensively and sacrificing offense to make sure his defense was there wasn't necessarily a recipe for success in the postseason long term. So maybe JB as well. The players needed that humbling experience. JB also may have needed a bit of a humbling experience to realize, hey, what I thought would work doesn't work in today's day and age. And you got to remember, the NBA today compared to 5 years ago is night and day different. And the NBA today to 2004, when JB began coaching in the NBA, is eons different. And the NBA today versus when JB Bickerstaff's dad was coaching 30, 40 years ago. It's like the Stone Age now. I mean, it's a completely different game. So players have to adapt, coaches have to adapt, and I think the Browns, top to bottom, front office down to the 12th man on the roster, which right now is Tristan Thompson, all deserve kudos and credence and credit for being able to adapt with the time. So
I do got one more question for you.
17-18. Shoot, last question, and we'll move on to a little Super Bowl stuff.
Yeah, so just me been paying attention a lot lately. Isaac Okoro.
Yeah.
Seemed like, man, every time I look at the box score at the end of the game, the Cavs are plus 14 or better with him on the court. You are the basketball expert between the two of us. Like, what is the impact that he's really having on the Cavaliers that's showing up in other places other than just how many points he scored?
Well, first and foremost, he is unquestionably by far, there's not a second closest on the roster, their best point of attack defender. So when he's on the court, no matter who their best perimeter offensive scorer is, his job just got 5, 6, 7 times harder. So I saw a stat, Mac Perry on Twitter tweeted this out, and I'm going to take it because I like Mac, and I hope he's right. I didn't double check this, but he's holding his primary opponent, so the guy he's guarding one-on-one, Earl, to like 42% shooting from the field and like 32% shooting from three, which is, considering the guys he's covering, significantly below their average. He hustles his ass off. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would bet their transition points are way up with Isaac Okoro on the court. And he's making open jump shots this year. You know, we said Isaac couldn't play last year because he was scared to shoot. And granted, he's not coming off screens, catching and shooting like Merrill and Strus, but they can't just leave him wide open. So now there's better spacing. And when he's on the court, they're better defensively. So everything kind of flows better. And he's another guy who doesn't necessarily need to touch the ball on offense to be successful. And we talk about, and I don't want to get into it, but how does Donovan and DG work together? Because they're both ball dominant guys. How do the big guys work together? Because they clog the paint if they're both on the court, if they're not shooting. All that stuff is valid. We can have that discussion another day. But last year, Isaac Okoro was another guy that teams weren't guarding. So whether it was one big or two bigs, then you have an extra guy in the paint because they're just leaving Isaac wide open. They are unable to do that this year when he's shooting damn near 40% from three. So he's one of those guys, an intangible guy who is going to get paid. Like, he's going to make some money this offseason, Earl, and he's earned it. And
I just said he's
him. Taking a giant step forward.
You know, for the last 2 years, I've had the opportunity to really cover the Cavaliers real close. And everybody that you talk to that has, you know, their eyes on this team every single day, they say that Isaac Okoro is the first one in and the last one out. Yep. And this is every single day. And I've heard this for 2 straight years. People like that who continuously put in the work are people that I root for, are the type of people that I always want on this team, man. That shows that this dude is not okay with just being average. And even if he doesn't become the best basketball player that we've ever seen, the fact that you're willing to put in the work day in, day out, night in, night out, it says a lot about you as a person and about your character. And those are the type of people that you love to have on this roster. So I am more than happy and thrilled that the trade deadline came and went, and Isaac Okoro is still here. And to be quite honest with you, man, I hope that we can work it out to where he's here for the foreseeable future.
He's an integral part of their roster, and he's a restricted free agent. So at least he'll be there around for one more year at a minimum. And then they'll have to figure out, does the money work? But right now, he's part of their best 5 lineup, their best 5-man lineup. I don't care the other 4. We'll make it around it. But, yeah, he's absolutely part of their best 4-man lineup. Earl, we asked earlier in the show for people to let us know where they're watching from. I'm going to read a couple of these, as many as I can before we talk a little Super Bowl. But we got Bearded Browns podcast in LaGrange, Ohio. Kenneth Yabo says, good morning from South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Tattoo says Hermitage, Pennsylvania. Marvin Galvin is from Columbus. We got someone from Painesville. That's Crypto Life Bags. We have Eric Harris from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Floyd Hart from Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Nice.
From the Woodlands. Okay, that's right in between Houston and College Station, the Woodlands, Texas.
Hey, he from Texas. I wonder if he listened to Big X the Plug.
D-Lo, ask him, do you listen to who's that?
Do you listen to Big X the Plug? So that's a rapper that's been off for like 2 years now. He from Texas, man. And Tyvis brought something to my point. For whatever reason, man, up in Cleveland, we love rappers from the South and we love rappers from Texas. So both three, Big X the Plug, like and Lucci. Like I'm telling you, man, Texas.
To say you're from Texas, though, does not mean you're anywhere near the Woodlands. You could drive 13 hours one end of Texas to the other. But yeah, there's not a lot of rappers from El Paso. We'll put it that way. Got, Leighton Gingerich from Amish Country, Ohio. We got Jay Cannon from Lima, Ohio. We have Danny Flynn from Danbury, Connecticut. We have Chris P. from Warren, Ohio. We have Sarasota via North Collinwood. That's our guy, Liam. Stephen Walden from Springfield, Ohio. And I think we got Timothy from Connecticut.
Okay.
And I think that's where we got everyone else watching. No, Travis from LA. That's coast to
Brian
coast.
from Strongsville.
LA. We've officially reached coast to coast. We got Brian Cobb from Strongville. Andrew Scott.
We got Baltimore.
We got Daryl Williams from Baltimore. A little behind enemy lines here. Kenneth from Columbus. Mercer from LA. Zach from Canton. I'm clicking on these so fast. Hopefully they're all getting on screen here. Mauricio from Cleveland. Shout out Cleveland. Jay from Screwston. That may be a joke. Is Screwston a real place?
I don't know.
Jay, where's Screwston? If you're listening, Jay, where's Screwston from? I hope I didn't read someone I'm not supposed to read. YBLA Flexico said west side of Cleveland. CeeLo said Lancaster, Ohio, but live down here now. And Braden says Tiffin, Ohio. So, Earl, we have gone coast to coast. The Super Bowl is not just a national event. It is an international event. It will be
that's H-Town.
H-Town. Okay, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, he said that's H-Town. Okay.
H-Town. I listen, I'm not one to tell you you're wrong. I never heard of Screwston. I lived down there for a while. But shout out to Screwston. We got Cuyahoga Falls. We got Sarasota, Florida.
Wait. I can't let you get away with that. Cuyahoga.
Cuyahoga?
Yeah.
What did I say?
You ain't say Cuyahoga. I don't know what the hell you said.
Say? Cuyahoga? Sorry. Cuyahoga. It's my accent, whatever. But all right, the Super Bowl is tonight, Earl, 6:30 kickoff. If you're in the chat, let us know who you think wins. Give us a score and a winner. If you want to bet with us, we put out the ultimate same game parlay on the UCSS Twitter channel. So make sure you go check that out. It was under Purdy passing yards, over Pacheco rushing, over Kelsey receiving, anytime touchdown score for Kelsey, and under 47.5 points. But, Earl, we have finally reached it. It's been 2 weeks of debating Mahomes, Purdy, Chiefs, Niners, the offense versus the defense. We know the injuries. We know who's playing. We know who's not. We know Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift and George Kittle. Storylines go on and on. But as of 11:30, 7 hours before kickoff, how you feeling?
I'm feeling like I've been feeling since the AFC Championship ended. I think that we're about to see Patrick Mahomes win back-to-back Super Bowls. I think we're about to see the Kansas City Chiefs step into a realm of conversations to where we start talking about dynasties. I think Patrick Mahomes is that good of a football player. I think we will see a good game. But when I look at, we do a lot of season stats, team comparisons. And I remember when you asked me to do these, I kind of scrapped it and said, I'm doing playoffs only. It's 2 different seasons. And to be honest with you, Kansas City has just been better defensively in the playoffs than San Francisco has been. And I find it hard to believe that, you're going to get it together in the biggest game of the season against the best quarterback in the NFL. So I like Kansas City winning this game. I think it'll be a fun game, but that's really how I feel.
I have gone back and forth on this all week. I really have, because on paper, I think top to bottom, the better 53-man roster is San Francisco.
I agree with you.
I like their weapons better. I like their line better. Their defense has not played well, but I can't imagine the defense is as bad as it had been against Detroit and Green Bay and late in the season. That's got to be something, some weird fluky thing. But I can't get myself to pick Brock Purdy over Patrick Mahomes. I know that's the most basic, generic, cliche reasoning in the world, Earl, and I feel bad that I don't have better analysis, I cannot get myself to pick Brock Purdy over Patrick Mahomes. But I do have a little caveat here. I think I know how the game's going to go. I think, and we saw it against Baltimore, Kansas City came out, and I asked Darren on Wednesday about this, but Kansas City came out and used their best stuff in the first 2 series, right? That's when Patrick Mahomes looked awesome. 10 of 10 in the first quarter, drove down the field, scored 2 touchdowns right off the bat. And they forced Baltimore to react to their haymaker, right? And Baltimore never was able to, they stumbled, it got hit with a Mike Tyson left, they stumbled, never got their feet under them, never were able to really recover. I think that's the same strategy we're going to see from Kansas City today. I think they're going to come out and hit Brock Purdy, or try to hit the 49ers in the mouth early and give them everything they got. They're not saving anything for the fourth quarter. Give it to them in the first 2-3 series. Run your best stuff, get a lead, and make Brock Purdy come from behind against that Kansas City defense. And I asked Darren, and Earl, I'm curious how you feel about this, but I asked Darren, has Mahomes entered the Tom Brady level of presence where other teams do wonky stuff just by his mere existence on the opposing sideline? And Darren said, I'm glad someone else finally realized this.
No, I 1000% agree.
Do you feel the same way? And if so, can Brock, I don't think Brock Purdy can throw haymakers with Patrick Mahomes.
I think people do wonky stuff because Pat Mahomes is on the other side. Just look at how the Buffalo Bills lost that game, right? They're driving down the field and they're literally playing to tie versus playing to win this game, right? They became so passive or felt like clock management was the best course of action versus actually just going down and scoring the damn touchdown, because even 30 seconds for Pat Mahomes spells that I'm probably going to lose this game. So the fact that he lives rent-free in everybody's head, I think he changes how everybody goes, changes course about how everybody goes about everything. You know, Pat Mahomes is like that dude. And I know for me, game on the line, man, last 30 seconds of a game, if he has an opportunity, I truly believe that he can create the magic necessary to make his team come out victorious. I want to go backwards because it was something that you said, and I had these thoughts in my head yesterday. I probably should have wrote them down, but, you know, you look at the San Francisco 49ers, and that's a damn good football team. That roster is stacked top to bottom. You could argue best 53-man roster in the NFL. But a lot of people kind of ignore the swings and misses, right, by John Lynch. And I guess the point that I'm getting to marry this to the Browns is, man, continue to be patient with our head coach and our general manager. Like, he had the opportunity to draft Patrick Mahomes, and he took Solomon Thomas in that draft, right? And then the next time he had the opportunity to get a quarterback to change the franchise, he traded 3 or 4 first-round picks for a guy that's a backup quarterback with the Dallas Cowboys now. Yeah. And so John Lynch hasn't been perfect himself, and yet somehow, some way, he's put a very talented roster together. Now, you found a gem in Brock Purdy, and with Brock Purdy making less than $1 million a season, you're able to fill out that roster a little bit more because this dude makes no money on a rookie 7th round, pick contract.
Making $800,000 a year, Earl, less than $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you look at that, man, and we look at this game, this is the question I ask myself, Mike. This game, I think the spread is like 2.5 max, right?
2.5 max. It depends on the book. It's from 1.5.
Depends on the book.
Yeah.
If Patrick Mahomes played on this current 49ers team, they'd probably be 2 touchdown favorites. If Brock Purdy was the quarterback of this Kansas City Chiefs team, I'm not even sure they make the playoffs.
Or what's funny is last year, Jaylen Herz extension hadn't kicked in. Jaylen Herz making $3 million, and they were able to build the rest of their roster. And you saw what happened to the Eagles this season. When Hertz's contract kicked in, they had to sacrifice some of the, I don't want to say fringe guys, but guys they were able to let go because they just simply couldn't afford. And Mahomes outscored, and they were the best defense in the league last year. Patrick Mahomes, and I know everyone's like, you guys, not us, but just in general, the media hypes him up too much. He's been to 6 straight AFC championship games. 6 straight. Like, can you imagine the city of Cleveland making 1? Just 1. And I'm not trying to be, I'm just being honest. Like, Cleveland would burn to the ground in a good way if they just made an AFC championship game. Patrick Mahomes is never not. He is that dude. He's that good. And there's something about him that forces it. And we hope Deshaun gets there. Like Deshaun, there's like 3 quarterbacks ever in the history of football who I think have had that level of presence. Mahomes, Brady, and then you go way back to guys who my dad tells me about, like Marino, but he didn't win it. So whatever. Maybe it's just 2. And we hope Deshaun gets there. But
I just thought it was very interesting, like when I started thinking about that, because you look at it, man, Deshaun Watson's contract is what it is. And this is a very talented roster too. And the GMs, man, they don't get it right every single time, right?
Yeah, no GM has 100% hit rate. Like they're all gonna miss.
It's just so crazy that if you look at these teams, I guess the point I'm making is one player.
Yeah.
It's the difference in what we think, the way we think. Because if he was the quarterback of the 49ers, hands down, 2 touchdown favorites.
Earl, let me ask you this. Let's say Kirk Cousins, you could copy and paste 2 Kirk Cousins. You put Kirk Cousins on the Chiefs and you put the exact same Kirk Cousins on the 49ers. Who wins the game?
49ers.
The 49ers. And you don't think it, right? You don't have to think about it. Like that's the Mahomes. So I just can't get myself to think anyone else, and not even against Brock Purdy. He's looked okay in the playoffs. He has 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. To his credit, he's made the plays late in games when they've needed him to. Mm-hmm. But I think, and back to what I said earlier, we'll wrap up. I want to read some comments on their predictions as well from the chat. But if you go out and make Brock Purdy beat you late in the game, I don't think Kansas City crumbles the way Detroit did. I don't think their defense will allow Brock Purdy to have a game-winning drive in the same capacity that Green Bay did in the first, or I guess the second round of the playoffs, but San Francisco's first game. So at the end of the day, give me a really good defense with maybe the greatest quarterback to ever walk the face of the earth over a guy in Brock Purdy who struggled out of the gate. He has not looked good in the first half of either of his playoff games this year. And I think if they get in a hole, I don't think they'll be able to dig out of it like they did the last 2 weeks.
And that's why I think Kansas City is going to win, man, because like we've talked to Darren Smith a lot. Kansas City's offense this year took a step back, right? That entire side of the ball took a step back. Meanwhile, the defense, who has been good in years past, was pretty much great this year. And I think they got the cheat code, right? A good defense, a good running game. That's usually the formula to win in football. You throw in there, you just happen to have the best quarterback in football in a year where the offense is not the best in the league. Still, like, man, that's a formula to where I feel like you're gonna win every single time. And like you said about the Chiefs defense, man, Chris Jones is a whole problem. So it's 2 people in this league that's a whole problem. Aaron Donald and Chris Jones. And it's gonna be fun.
Let's read some viewer score predictions. Chris P says 31-27 Niners. Kenneth Fagan says 49ers by 7. Eric Harris says Niners 21-24. C-Losis 27-23 Niners. So they're going against us, Earl. Stephen Walden says Niners by 3. Dominic says Chiefs by scriptwriter 31-27. Crypto says Chiefs by 3. Last second drive. Book it. Jay says, how can he not know screw? I'm not from Houston. I just worked in College Station for a few years. So there's a bunch of parts of Houston I don't know.
You know what screw music is, right?
Screw music. I just never heard of Screwston, Texas, is all I'm saying. I never heard that down. But it doesn't mean like I said, I lived in College Station.
Okay, I think I get what Jay's saying. So that's where screw music originated. So people from Houston call it Screwston. I could be wrong, but I assume that's what he was trying to say.
Yeah, that would make sense. All right, well, those are all the score predictions. Earl, we'll see y'all tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. You and I got the Chiefs. The chat is picking the 49ers. We appreciate y'all who tuned in. Cavs, 17 of 18. Or they play again. They play again tomorrow night?
Yeah.
They play tomorrow night.
Philadelphia. They play the Philadelphia 76ers at home.
No Embiid. That'll be a good one. We'll see y'all tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Shout out to Tom Jellin from Ocala, Florida. I don't know how to pronounce that. But we'll see y'all tomorrow. Earl, enjoy your Super Bowl.